Hello everyone and welcome back to yet another video in the 13 Days of Halloween series that I try to do every year around Halloween time. And so today's video is going to be on this movie that I'm not sure if a lot of people have heard of. I definitely heard of it more recently, and it's on Shudder. It's a very low budget Japanese horror film called One Cut of the Dead. And guys, trust me on this one. Just go watch it. If you've not seen it, I will be talking about spoilers for this movie in this review. So because it's very hard to talk about this movie without spoiling it. I'll give you the basic premise before you guys go off and watch this film. It's basically about a small film crew making an indie movie, a zombie movie on location, and they are attacked by zombies, which this is just, man, that premise. And that's not even the half of it. Trust me, guys. And it's called One Cut of the Dead because obviously it may or may not be in one giant cut. So go check out this movie. It's on Shudder. Trust me on this one. It will be so worth your time. But without further ado, let's get into spoilers for this movie because this has quickly become one of my favorites movies to watch during this time because, yes, it's not really a Halloween movie, but it is a kind of a horror movie that fits with the theme of this series. And you know what? It's my channel. I can do whatever I want. So we're going to be talking about One Cut of the Dead. So let's just jump right into this thing. The movie kicks off with a crazy 30-minute one take of like I just said, a film crew making a zombie movie that are attacked by zombies. And the storyline within this little 30-minute short film is essentially that's, they're making a zombie movie on location, and it has some rumors that some people may have done some human experimentation before in this warehouse in this weird place that they're filming in. That is a great location, by the way. It's great for the style of this film. But then, they have the director who wants to get raw and real performances out of their actors, create this curse to raise the dead, and the zombies start attacking. And again, like I said, you guys have to kind of trust me and watch this movie because the first 30 minutes of this movie is very corny. It's very cheesy. It's very purposely bad, and you'll see why in a second here. But it's a very cheesy filmmaking because it's all in one take, which is very impressive, by the way. I'm not taking anything away with how impressive the first 30 minutes of this is in terms of the one take aspect, but it does feel very cheap. It feels very low budget. It feels very campy because that's exactly what it's supposed to be, especially when you find out things later on in the film. And I just want to praise the beginning of this movie because if it was just a short film that was 30 minutes long on YouTube, yes, there's some awkward moments here and there in the first 30 minutes of this movie, but it's really, really well done, and the performances are fun. And the director running out every once in a while just yelling "action" is the funniest thing ever, and it's very entertaining. But then all of a sudden the credits start rolling and you're like, what is going on? Is the movie over? And I was watching with my family, like, that's it? I thought it was an hour and a half, and it was 25 minutes later, and all of a sudden we're looking at credits with this girl standing on a bloody red star looking up towards the sky, and you're like, what in the world is going on? And then the camera falls down and you hear somebody yell cuts, and it smash cuts to a year earlier, and it starts showing the same director and the same film crew talking about possibly doing a film a 30-minute zombie film for a new zombie channel that they're releasing. And yes, guys, the movie gets super meta from here. So essentially the first 30 minutes was the film that they are making within this film. So the director is hired to make a 30-minute one-cut take of this zombie movie to kick off this zombie channel, and he's basically tasked to do the whole thing, to kind of choreograph the one-shot thing. And you see the filmmaking process behind all that, and how they got certain actors, and how these actors in one way or another dropped out of that film, causing other people to start taking in the roles, like the director's wife and the director himself injecting themselves into different roles, which you see throughout the movie. You're like, okay, these people weren't the actors that were in the first 30 minutes. So what happened? How did things go so wrong where the director of the film has to go in and step in and act in the film itself? And there's so many funny gags. Like I said, there's so many awkward moments within the first 30 minutes where actors are having a conversation. The little exposition scene where the one I think she's the assistant director or something like that, or I don't exactly remember what her role was within the film, but she's telling the story of how there used to be human experimentation, and all of a sudden they all pause and they hear noise outside, and they just kind of look off on the side. They look next to the camera, off like this, and they start nodding, and they just start doing random things from there, and it feels very improvised. And that's because within the world of this movie, that's exactly what happened, because one way or another, there's certain actors that were performing within the film that have either diarrhea or they're drunk off their face and they can't properly act and they're not hitting their cues. And everybody within the film has to kind of improvise and stall for time because this thing is playing live to the audience within the world of the movie. Like I said, it's kind of hard to explain. Hopefully you guys have seen it so you understand what I'm saying here. But like I said, this movie is extremely, extremely clever. So this movie is basically split up into 3 parts. The first part is watching the short film that they end up making. The second part is all the behind the scenes, the pre-production of this entire film. And the third act, last 30 minutes of the movie, is going back and showing what's happening behind the scenes of the making of that one take film, which means they had to film this thing at least twice, maybe even 3 times, trying to work everything out because they have to actually pull off the one take, which they show behind the scenes during the credits of the movie. But they also had to shoot behind the scenes of what's happening while they're doing the one take thing with alternate cameras and alternate crews and actors being in those positions, which is very entertaining to watch. Like I said, the guy who had diarrhea, that has to be one of the best poop jokes of all time, because when you're watching the first 30 minutes, you see this guy like clutching over, holding his stomach, and he's like crawling along the ground towards the exit, and the director's like, where are you going? You're not supposed to be leaving right now. And he says, I have to go. He runs out the door, and then you see at the end of the movie that he's just like kneeling on the ground, just completely just giving out on the ground because he couldn't make it to a toilet. And it's just so funny because it holds on him for so long. The camera just sits on his face and he's so embarrassed, and the makeup artist has to start doing his makeup, his zombie makeup, while he's, you know, just crapping himself all over the grass. It's so funny. It's one of the funniest moments in the movie. And also just the wife character who gets so obsessed and encapsulated by whatever role that she's in, she's also, her performance is great in this movie because she really goes unhinged. She goes crazy. And there's one moment at the beginning of the movie where she darts up, standing up, and then just like screams, and then she gets knocked back down even though there's an axe in her head. And it just seems like out of nowhere, and like, it's what in the world is going on? And at the end of the movie you see that she really did lose it, and the whole thing of running up to the roof, that was not done at the time it was supposed to. Whenever she was like kicking everybody down and doing her self-defense palm thing, all that was just because she was getting way too into the role, and the director had to knock her out off camera. That's why the camera was sticking on the actress for so long of her just screaming. And like, why is the shot staying on this for so long? Or even when it happened when the camera falls down on the ground and the actress is struggling with the zombie, and then she runs off and the camera still is sitting on the ground for a while. And then you see in the second act, you know, you have the director of photography, and you have this alternate assistant camera person, and she just wants to have her own little style of zooming in and out on the zombies as they're chasing them. And then you see the camera gets knocked down. The camera guy was knocked out, and so that assistant camera person grabs a camera and starts doing that weird zoom thing, which is such a funny joke in this movie. Like, I'm a film student, and so that made me appreciate this movie so much more because, you know, the way that they showed the filmmaking process within this movie was extremely accurate, obviously, because it's filmmakers making a film about filmmaking. That's really what this movie's about. I say at the beginning, the main premise that I try to sell people on this movie is, you know, yeah, it is about a film crew making a zombie movie who then get attacked by zombies. But when I say it's so much more than that, it goes so in depth with the filmmaking process, and it's just a very feel-good movie by the end of it, because when you see these characters struggle to do that one take, and they're making the pyramid of people because the crane was knocked over earlier in the filmmaking, and the crane gets knocked down and is broken, they have to kind of like stack up and make a human pyramid because the director feels really passionate about this final shot. Everything on this production has gone wrong up to this point, but he has one beautiful shot that he can't let go, and he has people stack up on top of each other so they can hold up the camera super high so they can get that epic shot at the end of the movie, and when they all collapse. And it's just such a beautiful moment between the director and his daughter, who also always gets way too passionate about her directing job, which again, there's another funny joke of her yelling at like a 5-year-old to have real tears instead of using eye drops. This has so many funny filmmaking jokes that I just so appreciate. So if you're a lover of film in general, you're going to love this movie. Yes, I have this in my 13 Days of Halloween horror series, but this is not a horror movie. This is a straight up comedy. It's very funny. It has so many great jokes. That's why I had to get into spoilers, because you have to talk about the very inventive ways that this movie twists and turns and has its own very unique storytelling, which I don't think I've ever seen before in any other movie. This movie is awesome. I'm raving about it. This is a near perfect film. I love it. I've seen it a few times now, and each time it just impresses me even more of how well done it is. So if you guys have not seen this movie and you still watched all through my spoiler review, go watch One Cut of the Dead. You will not be disappointed, and it will quickly become one of your favorite zombie movies, which is not really a zombie movie. It'll become one of your favorite filmmaking movies in general. So go watch this film. Comment down below what you guys thought. I love this thing, and so I just had to include this in my series. So leave a like on the video if you enjoyed my analysis of this movie, and then subscribe to the channel if you want to see more in the 13 Days of Halloween series. We're going to get into some more horror movies coming up here. I will be doing a video on Scream very soon. I can give that movie a rewatch, and I have a hot take about that movie that most of you will probably not like. So subscribe to the channel if you want to see that video. It's going to be a fun one. So thanks guys for watching this one, and I hope to see you all in my next one.